Hello and welcome to the energy update for October in Qi Flow with Jo. Where do we want to be in this turning cycle of the year? So we've moved from late summer, which is stomach and spleen energy, and we're moving more into autumn, which is lung, large intestine energy. And this lung, large intestine energy, together with the stomach and spleen, is responsible for our immune system. So I'm going to cover foods, acupressure and Qi Gong that you should be doing at this time of the year to really keep your immune system nice and strong so that it can protect you. The equivalent of our immune system in Chinese medicine is called the Wei Qi, or defensive Qi, and it runs between the skin and the muscles, and it's our first line of defense to protect the body from external and invading pathogens and viruses. However, when this Wei Qi, this force field of energy, becomes weak, or you have blockages in some areas, then we can become open to invading viruses and our health becomes compromised. I like to think of the Wei Qi as almost kind of like a ready break glow. I grew up with a cereal called Ready Break, which was kind of like instant porridge. And the advert for this was a child going out to school with this wonderful orange glow all around him, as if the Ready Break porridge had given him this kind of force field. And that's our Wei Qi. That is our defensive force field against any viruses that are really around in the air, mainly at this time of autumn. In Chinese medicine, just the same as Western medicine, the lung and the large intestine is the main part responsible for our immune system. The lungs are often the first point of entry for these viruses that are kind of in the atmosphere. But why is it that some people get sick and some people don't? Some people get COVID 5 times and some haven't had it at all. So it really depends on how I look at my doctor, actually, and my doctor every day will have people coming in with coughs and colds, and he's often quite not off sick because he must have a very strong immune system. And that is really about the lung and the large intestine in Chinese medicine. So we've already said that the lungs are where the viruses can often enter the body, but it's the large intestine that contains lots and lots of mast cells, goblet cells, all sorts of different cells that can actually pick up when a virus has come into the body. And it's the large intestine that responds by creating an inflammatory response to eliminate the virus from the body. In Chinese medicine, however, it's not just the lung and the large intestine. It's the mother of these organs, if we follow the 5-element cycle, is the spleen and the stomach, the earth energy. And that's really where our digestion takes place. So the lungs responsible for breathing and the spleen really responsible for digesting and assimilating the energy that we get from food. In Chinese medicine, energy can be broken up into 3. You have food and breath, and these are the energy that you get after birth. And then you also have Jing, your prenatal energy, the energy that you've inherited from your parents. All of these blend together to give you your own unique energy. And what we're specifically concerned with here is your immune system. So we're keeping the lung, large intestine healthy, and the spleen and the stomach, the energy that you get from transformation of food and drink. I'm going to be covering all of these aspects in Qi Flow with Jo for the month of October. But first of all, here in this short energy update, let me cover and begin with the lung and the large intestine. We've already covered how the lung is where the pathogens and the virus can enter the body, and that the large intestine picks up when these viruses have entered the body. These are the yin and yang organs for autumn. But did you realize that actually your gut is also part of your nervous system? So working with the lung and the large intestine and reducing your response to stress levels will also really, really improve your force field of energy. The organ that links both of these is called the diaphragm. It links the lung to the large intestine. And really, it's a disc of muscle that's about this big. And it sits just kind of in the solar plexus area. And we should really be using the diaphragm, but for lots of different reasons, the diaphragm can actually become shrunken, either because we're breathing incorrectly or because we are suffering mentally and emotionally. So I'm going to address both of these with a Qi Gong exercise called Pebble in the Pond. But first of all, I want you to check, are you breathing correctly? So I want you to put one hand on your belly, just kind of over your belly button, and the other hand on your chest. Now breathe. Which hand raises? Is it the top hand? Or is it the bottom hand? If you're breathing correctly, it should be the bottom hand that goes out as you breathe in, and exhaling. The bottom hand should go back in, a bit like a balloon. Breathing in, the belly should expand like Father Christmas, and breathing out, you should engage the core muscles and send the belly button back to the spine. This is working the diaphragm so that when you breathe in, the diaphragm expands and pulls the lungs so that they expand. And this massages the large intestine and really gets lots of blood going in there. So I really can't emphasize enough how correct breathing is really, really important. So let's do a Qigong exercise, and I'm going to sit down to do this. But the first thing you need to do is make sure that you're breathing correctly. Inhale as if you're breathing in the center of a rose. Exhale and push out the breath. Engage that core. We spend a lot of time either sucking in the belly because we're afraid of looking kind of wobbly or rolls, as I have, you know, I'm squidgy, I'm wobbly, and we often want to kind of hold that in, or we let it all hang out because there's no muscle core strength. So the Qigong for this month is really going to be working with that core strength and making sure that you're breathing correctly. So let's do Pebble in the Pond so that you can really get the hang of how you should be breathing. I'm going to do it sitting down. You can stand up if you like. First of all, we're going to take a few breaths. Inhaling, big belly. Exhaling, send the belly button back to the spine. Inhaling, big belly. Exhaling, send the belly button back to the spine. Now relax, and you just watch the first time, and then I'm going to break it down for you. Okay, so what I want you to do is you're imagining ripples, pebbles on a pond in front of you, and you're smoothing out this beautiful, soft water. Okay, so you inhale, big belly. Exhale, hands come forwards. Exhale, smooth out the water, and inhale now, big belly. Gather the chi into the belly. Exhale, send the belly button back to the spine. Smooth the water. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, big belly. Draw that energy into your digestive fire. Exhale. Inhale. Big belly. Last time. Exhale. And come to rest and store in the lower dantian. Now, this area around the solar plexus also is where a lot of the lymph glands congregate here. So we can often get a lot of emotional tension stored here, and that stops the diaphragm from working. So hopefully, and if the diaphragm stops working, it can actually shrink to a little size of a pea. And who wants a little pea diaphragm? No, we want to keep this the balance point between the breath and the belly, we want to keep this strong, full of blood. And while we do that breathing, we also give ourselves lymph drainage and we relax this solar plexus area. So the Qi Gong is really great for all of these things, to strengthen the immune system and help with digestive absorption from the food that you eat. Again, strengthening your Qi and your life force energy. Lack of oscillation in this breathing. When we stop oscillating our breathing, it can mean that we're actually breathing very shallowly up here. And the emotion for autumn and the time of year where we go into letting go of the leaves of the trees, we are moving closer to the winter, so we are letting go. And the emotion that can often go with this is grief. And grief is held in the lungs. If we imagine we're very, very upset, and it's the lungs that are really affected first. And often we don't want to feel those emotions of grief, sadness, letting go. So we keep everything really tightened up here. Smoking is an area where we really learn to suppress the emotions. We're not breathing deeply. We actually kind of stop the breath and the oxygen coming into the body by smoking. We're putting a blockage from feeling those emotions. So what I really invite you to do with that Qigong is really expand. Often a good cry is very good for releasing that emotions, and you feel a tightness being released from this area here. So try not to go with this short tidal breath, but go with this wave breathing that involves the whole body. Connection. The opposite of grief and disconnection is connection, and knowing that you are part of a whole natural life cycle that goes through the seasons of letting go. Everything has its time, so learn to let go at this time of autumn and embrace what is coming is the winter, when these leaves go into the ground and they give all the nutrients for the new growth. We have to let go to allow the new to enter. So what foods can we eat that really help the lung and the large intestine? So the lung and the large intestine, as I said, is for the month of the autumn, the season of the autumn, and the food that goes with this, the flavor, is pungent. So what are pungent foods? Well, they're onion, garlic, ginger. All of these, what do they do when you cut an onion? It opens the mucous membranes. It helps you breathe. So all of these really pungent foods, turnip, radish, anything that really kind of opens the breathing passageways, mustard greens, anything with a slight pungency is going to be really good for the lung and the large intestine. And as we all know, they have powerful antibiotics, antiviral, antimicrobes. All of these foods are fantastic for the lung and the large intestine. So I'm going to be teaching you some fantastic recipes that include all of these ingredients, plus more, all of those supplements that you can take. Vitamin D, mushrooms are fantastic. The color of the foods that we're looking for for the autumn is white. Often if people come to me and they have a very white pallor, I'll be instantly thinking perhaps they are celiac or they are fighting a virus, perhaps they have COVID. So white often signifies that there's a problem with the lung, large intestine, but in food, white is the color we're looking for. So I already said onions, garlic, scallions, radish, turnip. I know that's a little bit yellow, but also mushrooms. Mushrooms as a white food, fantastic for the large intestine. Shiitake mushrooms, especially, everybody has their favorite: lion's mane, turkey tail, all really good for the large intestine. And did you know, with your mushrooms, if you put them out in the sunshine, you increase their vitamin D levels? And I don't know if you remember during COVID, but everybody was saying vitamin D, vitamin D. You need to be taking more vitamin D. Where do you get that from? Is sunlight. But as our sunlight begins to decrease in autumn, it's very important to get some sunlight from the food we eat. So mushrooms are a great place to start. I'm going to be sharing lots of food during the month in Qi Flow with Jo, lots of recipes. So come and join us. Food is really what connects me to the body. It shows me where my energy is lacking. Sometimes I will also say, how am I feeling? Am I feeling full of grief? Or am I feeling tired? Or am I feeling like I need a hug? And I will know what those are according to the 5-element system. And so let's move to the next part of the 5-element system, which I talked about, which was the stomach and the spleen. Spleen? The spleen. So in Chinese medicine, we have this idea that the energy from the stomach and the spleen travels upwards and feeds into the lung, and then that creates this Wei Qi, this protective boundary around the body. And the color for the food for the spleen is orange. And what does orange say to you? It says vitamin C. So plenty of spleen foods like sweet potato, butternut squash, pumpkin, all of these are in season for the autumn. So eat with the seasons, eat these foods. They're full of vitamin C that's highly absorbable by the body, and your stomach and spleen will really thank you for it. What you want to avoid, what weakens the spleen, is sugar. It causes dampness. And dampness, what happens in the autumn when things get damp? They get moldy. You get an overgrowth of fungus. So you might find that you suffer with candida, eczema, psoriasis, IBS, any of these problems that cause digestive issues. You want to focus on your spleen. So spleen and lung and large intestine. That pebble in the pond really stokes the digestive flyers. And I'm going to show you one of my favorite spleen points now, spleen 21. It's called the Great Embrace. The energy and the emotion for the spleen is comfort and satisfaction. In the opposite of that, it's addiction and grasping, like nothing is enough, overthinking, over worrying. And what happens there? You begin to clench your jaw, the muscles begin to clench in, and especially around the solar plexus, you get a lot of tension. And as I already said, that is going to really weaken your immune system. So try this spleen 21 point and try it together with the Qi Gong, and it like supercharges it. So how to press a point. So what we do is we find the point and then we press and we find the resistance. And when we get to a resistance, we just let it soften and melt. And I want you to think about this melting. So imagine your body is kind of like butter. And if you've been in the fridge and you're very cold and you're very stressed, it's all very, very tight. What we want to do with the acupressure and the Qi Gong is we want to melt the butter. We want to be able to let that energy flow all around the body and make it really have this beautiful defensive Qi. So let's find spleen 21. It's called the Great Embrace. So what I want you to do is give yourself a big hug. Put one hand on top of the shoulder and one hand under your armpit. And where the little finger falls, I want you to find that intercostal space. And massage, press. You can tap if you like, but it's a little bit hard to tap in that area. So, and it can be very painful. So go slowly and go easily. You're not pressing a button. You're connecting with your own body's energy. So I'll tell you again, you've got 2 spleen 21s, hand on the shoulder. Oh, I'm doing the same one again. Hand on the shoulder, hand under the armpit, and where the little finger falls, find that intercostal space between the muscles and just hold and press. The benefit of spleen 21 is it helps us to just be happy where we're at. Plus, it releases and relaxes all the muscles around the chest and the heart. And that will help your breathing. The spleen and the lung are really intertwined, very intertwined in Chinese medicine. So pressing this point here, see if you can feel your chest and your solar plexus relaxing as you press into these points. I'm massaging. And then you can give yourself a big hug. The spleen, I could talk for a long, long time, as you already know, probably. But the spleen, each of the organs has a sensory organ. So for the long, large intestine, it would be the nose. But for the stomach and the spleen, it's the flesh of the body. So make sure that you're getting lots of touch and getting lots of hugs. And if that means that that's a hug from yourself, then love yourself, because that's where it all begins. Really fall in love with your body and see if you can communicate with your body. See where it's feeling weak. See where it's feeling empty. And use the 5 elements of Chinese medicine to support and strengthen those parts of the internal immune system, sort of giving yourself little patches around the body so that you have this wonderful force field. May the Qi be with you. May you be happy and may you be well. May I be happy, may I be well, and may all beings everywhere be happy, safe, and well. I hope to see you in the Qi Flow in October. And don't forget, there's Ask Me Anything. If you've got any problems at all, I'll make a video for you. And even if you'd like, we could have a one-to-one session online.